Hello, 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 hello. Welcome everybody. My last live and talking today about study in the UK. Today we're going to be having Dhriti Jhaveri and talking about study in the UK. Well, I finished about, this is the last episode. I finished about 3 editions of That's What They Said. And I am very excited to have my last one. A lot of people say save the best for the last, and this might be the last one as well. So, just gonna wait for Dhriti to send in a request. There she has. And I will be going live, and today we'll be talking about studying in the UK. Yep. Likewise, very excited as well. Thanks so much for people who've already joined in. Thanks, Ronak. Thanks, Percy. How's it going, Percy? Nice to hear from you. Hi, Jiti. How's it going?
Hi, all good. How are you?
Very interesting way. From so many times we've connected in person and on the phone and on different mediums. This is the first time we are connecting live, so it's a pleasure speaking with you. Firstly, thank you so much for taking out time on a Sunday afternoon, evening, depends on what time you wake up. Um, but 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 thanks so much for taking our time. How's it going?
It's good. The pleasure is all mine. It's going well. Sunday is actually a good day because it's free. So I'm very happy to be here talking with you.
Awesome. I know this sounds very formal for the both of us because we're not used to talking like this, but don't worry. I think we'll just try to pick your brains on what your experience about studying in the UK also was. So I'm going to get straight right into it. Can you tell us, for everybody who's watching, what course you studied, when did you graduate, which university did you study at as well?
Okay, so I studied at UCL, which is University College London, and I was part of the Institute of Education. I did my master's in Education and International Development from 2017 to 2018. So it's a 1 year master's degree. And yeah, that's
All
the
right.
gist of it.
Interesting. Can you take me back to when you had applied for the program? What was your admission process like? What were the admission criteria to get into the program that you did get into?
So the course that I did was basically on how to develop education and improve education in developing countries. So
Hmm.
the required background was that we needed to have some sort of work experience of at least 6 months to a year in working in education in a developing country.
Sure.
uh, Over and above that, there was a like your basic undergrad, you need to have a minimum 60% of your undergraduate degree, and they have a little, like a statement of purpose that
Sure.
they taken, and that's the basic uh,
What about any entrance
criteria.
test? Did you have to write any entrance tests?
Yeah, I had to give the, what's the English
GMAT,
language? No, no, no.
IELTS, IELTS,
Yeah,
TOEFL, or
IELTS.
PTE.
Thanks.
All right.
Yes, I had to give IELTS. That was it. Nothing else because
Okay.
it's an MA program. It's not a business program or anything. So I didn't have to give GMAT.
All right. Okay. So for a master's program in the UK, most likely you'll have to write just the IELTS or the English language test as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little more about this institution, yeah, UCL. Where is it based? A little more about how accessible, how nice it is for students as well.
Okay. So UCL was fantastic. It's University College London, so it's situated pretty much in the heart of London. And it has a lot of, so there's a main campus, and then it has a lot of smaller campuses based on the department. So it's really massive in a way because the courses range from archaeology to biology to medicine to education, and it's very, there's a lot of variety. So it's huge, and you, if you're not studying a particular discipline, you probably don't have access to that campus area.
Sure. Hmm.
But the facilities in almost all the campus buildings are also really fantastic. Do you want me to talk about that, or
No, I
am I
think we'll
digressing?
we'll just get a little bit into that as well. Let me ask you from an overall perspective, Dhriti. I think you've done your undergraduate and you've done all of your education in India, let's say,
Yeah.
per se, in in Mumbai itself. How is this study abroad experience like? Just if you have to sell the concept of study abroad to somebody and share your experience, what are the new things that you might have learned from a study abroad perspective? Not from an academic perspective, but majorly from an experiential learning perspective.
So I think it's kind of intertwined, the academic and the experiential learning for me, because the way that the entire course is designed and the way that people function there, the way that they study, the way that things are taught are extremely different from the way that they are taught in our
Yeah,
colleges. Like, obviously, it's very theoretical here, and it's a lot based on like a top-down approach where we're fed information. Whereas what happened to me when I went for my master's degree was it kind of opened up these avenues of ways that I could think in and the way I could critically analyze things. Because when we have like discussions, okay, so my class, like I told you, it was on how to develop education in
yeah,
low income developing countries. So I had classmates from Kenya and a lot of South American countries, different African countries, the Middle East, China, Japan, and of course India, the
yeah.
Indian subcontinent. And just, I think, even interacting with these people and talking to so many people from different backgrounds, it really it opens up your horizons in a way. Sorry, I don't
Sure.
know what's happened.
Yeah.
Okay. And secondly is that the way that they think, the moment that
Hmm.
you're given a piece of information as an Indian, I know I'm generalizing, but
Yeah.
most of us, like, we just accept that information as, okay, yeah, this is information that I've received, I need to learn it. But the information that someone else, like if someone else from another background reads that information, they go like, why should I
Why is
believe
this?
it?
Yeah.
Why does
Yeah.
this happen? And automatically, like, their critical and analytical skills are so much more heightened than, because of the way that they've been educated before this. I think
Yeah.
that was my biggest takeaway, and the way that I developed as a person. And of course,
Sure.
like I said, like speaking to so many people from different backgrounds, it just gives you so much more insight, because you kind of have like that keyhole perception from where you have come. So
Hmm.
that was really good.
What about living outside your comfort zone? Can you take me through a little bit about how you were, from going from pampered at home to now getting stuff done by yourself? Can you take me through an individual, let's say, like you go and find yourself and you go and change certain aspects of your personality. Take me through that personal growth as well.
So yeah, like you said, that I've spent all my life before I went for my master's degree in Mumbai, and I've been at home, and yes, I've lived a very comfortable life. But going there, living on your own, it's so liberating in a way, because you're responsible for yourself, and
Yeah.
that's, I think it's a very important phase of your life. Like, if you haven't done it, you should do it in your, like, before you like cross your, like, mid 20s. You should do it before that. Uh, it's relatively easy to take care of your house and things like that there, because everything's kind of automated.
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, you have to have that discipline of doing things. You can obviously leave your dishes in the sink for like a week and not do it. But like, it kind of pushes you. Okay, you're like, oh my god, I have to clean. I have to go buy groceries. I
Yeah.
have to make my budget, because obviously you don't want to. It's expensive living in London. You don't want to splurge, so you need to control. Okay, this week I'm gonna buy 3 fruits, or something
Hmm.
like that. Uh, but all in all, it gives you a lot of independence, and it also gives you a lot of courage, and like, it just builds you as a person, because then you can, if you live alone in a city you've never been to before, and you become so adept at taking care of yourself, that if you're back or not back,
Yeah.
you're like hardy, then you have that skill.
Correct. Correct. So, the US and the UK traditionally are known to be study destinations for Indians to go because mothers and fathers actually speak to their friends and say that my son or my daughter is in the UK. So UK also kind of becomes like an institution. How much of historic academic uh, uh, reputation that UK had actually pushed you to take up that particular country versus going to like a Europe or some other places in the world which is not like the ones which are picking up as study destinations.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what went behind my decision. So I was clear that I wanted to study my degree in education, and that also developmental education. So I pretty much went through a list of the best colleges to do that, and UCL was number one.
Okay.
I
Okay.
definitely preferred Europe or UK over USA, but that's just a personal bias that I have.
Sure.
I just didn't feel like going to the US at all. I don't know. I have a mental block against it. But the choice of this institution, especially in London, was because it was the best. It was number one. Like the Institute of Education at UCL was number one on the list internationally. So
For the
I,
particular program that you were interested in.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. One of the most important questions that I think people on this live would also have, which is to do with the student visa policies. There has been a different student visa policies over the last few years. Boris Johnson is now in power, and I think his election campaign rather was majorly to also support students and to support people who are coming in from different parts to actually get the student visa, and they have like a PSW, which is the post-study work right for students. Can you take me through a little bit about what that visa contains? How student visas in UK right now uh, are going to actually act as a blessing for the students. Then earlier it was just like, come study and leave then if you don't get a job within that. Can you take me through the whole process of the student
Right.
visa now?
So I'll just give you a background for when I did my
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
did my course. The whole post study work visa was not it wasn't a
enforced.
policy
Yeah,
then. Yeah, it wasn't enforced. So my friends, I always knew I was going to come back because I wanted to work in developmental education. So I needed to be in a developing country. So that was
correct.
my goal always. But I had a lot of friends who were doing other courses and things like that, and it was very difficult for them to find a job because that time you need sponsorship,
Yeah,
and it was like a lot of them had to go through personal contacts and things like that, and a lot of the most of the sponsorship was for STEM fields.
yeah,
So even now the 2 years of post study work that you can do is it's encouraged more for the STEM field students because that's
correct.
something they're always looking for. But it I think in the current scenario, a lot of students were sent back because of COVID, so it
Yeah,
didn't really help them. I'm not sure they're able to really make the most of it, but
sure.
it's obviously going to make their lives easier going forward because they have a set of institutions that have that are authorized or that are recognized as institutions that whose students can be allowed to apply for this visa or for work
Hmm,
post their
hmm,
degree.
hmm.
So if you're from one of those institutions and doing one of those like courses that they feel are really beneficial
Yeah,
for their economy, it'll be easier for you to find a job. uh, in the education field per se, it will because that's my field, I
yeah,
can tell
yeah.
you that it would be difficult because if you haven't been schooled in the UK, you will have to get like over and above some specific qualifications to be able to work in education.
Sure.
So that's one aspect of it. But I think it's really great for students who are going there and now are going to be looking to settle there and work there. It does make their lives easier because they have that 2 year period where they can, experience it and search for it. And if they do then get like a longer term sponsorship, it's great.
Sure. So just to summarize and to put things into perspective, for any student that has
Hmm.
graduated from September 2020 and who's possibly doing more of the STEM related courses, they will find it beneficial to actually, get the post study work right, which will last for 2 years, which will, give them a chance to work in the UK without having company sponsorship. Over and above that is going to be the company that will need to sponsor itself. So that's the key area when you're looking at the post-study work, right? Which is making UK now a more viable student. A higher education destination as well.
Yeah.
Coming back to some other visa regulations as well. During your 1 year as a student, are you allowed to work in the UK? Some hours in the week, etc.
Yeah. So it also depends on your course. In my course, I was allowed to work up to 20 hours per week, and if I had holidays, I could work full time.
Sure.
But obviously, no self-employment. Like you can't, you can't like run your own like you can't tutor people there and stuff because that's self-employment. But you can be employed for up to 20 hours a week. But if you're in some specific business degrees and things like that, you don't even have that. You
Sure.
have a restriction. You cannot even work 20 hours a week. So it really depends. But most degrees allow you to work a minimum of 20 hours a week. I mean, a maximum of 20 hours a week. Sorry.
I understand. Okay. The best part about studying in the UK is that, as an Indian, you don't really need to know a foreign language, right? Though having said that, and you've mentioned already that you had a lot of South American friends and you've got people from Africa as well. What is the importance for Indians to actually pick up a language that they don't speak in India very often? Would you have been better off if you maybe knew some other European language, especially something like a Spanish, because you mentioned South Americans? Do you think you would been better off? I'm not looking from a survival perspective, because I think for that it's the English language. But in terms of growing your personality, in terms of taking some extra classes in the times of this lockdown where we have, would you suggest that investing in a foreign language makes sense?
So, of course, learning a foreign language is always beneficial. Like, there's no downside to it personally. I feel, even though I haven't learned one, I think I wish I would have. But from the perspective of studying in the UK, it's not that big a deal because all your classmates speak English. The
Yeah.
whole point, yeah. So it's not like you're missing out on anything, but and you could interact with them maybe at a more personal level if you knew like their language. But
Hmm. Hmm.
they're like, people don't really judge you, or they don't see you as anything different just because you don't speak their language. Like, at least in the course that I was doing also, because I've noticed like people who work in in the development sector are just nicer.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
language was never a barrier, but of course it could have opened up some opportunities for me to do research in a different country. Like, like
Hmm.
I could have done my primary or secondary research using documents probably of another country and stuff like that. I was limited to obviously only English resources and English speaking countries. So
Hmm.
from that
Hmm.
perspective, it could have been helpful. But
Sure.
from like perspective of connecting better with my classmates and stuff, I don't think it was fine.
Sure.
I mean,
Fair
I
enough.
don't think it was needed.
Yeah, yeah. So, like we've seen in the movies, Riti, especially the movies which are supposed to be based in the UK, when we talk about campuses, we really talk about these big green lawns and these, I, I can't use British architecture right now, but heritage architecture as well.
Like gothic,
That
yeah.
yeah, Gothic architecture, and that you go between two buildings for different classes, and there are people from all over the world. Take us through what the campus looks like. Is it like they show in the movies, or it is just a couple of half a building where you and I did study?
So like I said, UCL had multiple campuses.
Hmm.
Like that's like more than 10, 12 buildings.
Yeah.
The main UCL campus though is really beautiful. It's this kind of Grecian, kind of Gothic architecture with like a lot of pillars and this white marble building with a dome. It's really pretty, and it has like a nice big courtyard and stuff like that. But that's not where I studied. That's
Okay.
that campus has like the main office. It has like the amazingly beautiful, huge libraries that you would probably see in one of those British movies. With obviously now everything's obviously digitized, but you still have like huge
Yeah.
columns of books and things like that. The building that I studied in, which is the Institute of Education building, it's definitely bigger than HR College's building or Jai Hind. They have like a huge amphitheater inside, and like an indoor amphitheater. They have different conference rooms and a lot of rooms. It's a very modern building. Sadly, I would have
Sure.
loved to study in a building that was really beautiful and Gothic. It's a full like glass windows, like glass French windows building, and but it's huge. It's big.
Okay. Okay. Fair
Yeah.
enough. What about facilities on campus for students? What are the facilities that you had on campus, that made your student experience better?
So they have a ton of facilities because, like I said, UCL is huge. So they have a
Yeah.
student council, then they have a lot of different clubs. As a postgraduate, like because I was doing a postgraduate course, I was not so involved in those kind of things. But facilities wise, the computer labs are super amazing. You can create like personalized desktops so you have an ID, you can create a
Hmm.
personalized desktop, and no matter which computer you access in the entire facility, you will get your files because of the system
Sure.
that they have. The library is fantastic. It's super modernized. You have to tap your card in to get in. They have really nice cafes dotted all around the area. They have areas where you can heat your own food. And of course, there's common areas. There's a bar. There's a student bar that's, it's actually open to everybody.
Sure.
And like I said, there's multiple libraries.
Hmm.
So for a geek like me, it's really fun. Like there's a lot of research that you can do, and yeah, and there's a lot of areas to just chill and relax and just enjoy natural beauty as well, because there's so many little parks dotted around
Yeah.
the area. And the classrooms are obviously like smart classrooms, all
Yeah.
digitized,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think it's
Interesting.
fairly modern. Yeah.
Interesting. Also, take me through housing. Did you have on-campus housing, or did you live off campus? Did you live with friends? How many of you all shared the apartment as well?
So I was supposed to stay with one of my friends, but then there was like a last minute thing and she couldn't come. So my entire house search kind of spiraled right to the end. And I applied for UCL's accommodation, but because they had it was filled, like all their on campus, they don't have on campus accommodation as such.
Sure,
It's just
sure.
in the area, but they have a lot of UCL living buildings. So since everything was full, they had signed up. They had like tied up with this private student hall called Chapter. I don't know if anyone knows. Like it's the old Nido. So that's actually
Hmm.
one of the areas where all like these rich Indian kids used to stay. So they tied up with Chapter, and so I got a subsidized rate to stay in one of the Chapter studios because I wanted to live alone.
Okay.
Because I'm Jain, so I didn't want to have to share a kitchen.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I was staying in a studio on my own. It was pretty nice. It was decently big, very sufficient. And
Interesting.
yeah, I can tell you like the place that I stayed on was really cool. Like
Hmm.
it had a gym, it had like a pool table, it had like a movie room where you can plug in your own device and like watch a movie with your friends. It had like a games area, it had books and cleaning services and stuff like that. So it was really good.
Okay. Okay, that sounds like paradise for Dhriti as well. Dhriti, can you take me through one very important question? Because the first thing that comes to my mind when when we go for meals as well as friends over the last few years is the dietary restrictions. There's a question that also
Hmm.
came in the comment section about dietary restrictions. I know you're Jen and you don't eat certain foods as well. How easy or how difficult was it for you to get access to that kind of food while you were there in the UK?
It was really easy. London is a very international and cosmopolitan city. So in London, it was extremely easy. And there's obviously a lot of Indians. If you go more towards the north and the
Yeah.
northwest of London, you like the menus have like J written on it in Indian restaurants saying that we can make this Jen for you. But even in central London, since that's where I spent most of my time because I was studying there,
Hmm.
like basic things are really easy to get, and people are very accommodating. If you tell them, listen, these are some of my restrictions, can you probably make some adjustments and give me something that suits my needs. And even fast food, a lot of places, because now veganism is also really
Yeah.
catching up, and a lot of people are turning vegan, so there are a lot of vegan options out there, and with just a few tweaks, like they're okay to do that for you. So
Hmm.
I actually didn't. I think I put on weight over there. Yeah, I put on more weight than I'd gone with. So food was not a problem.
Sure. Take me through a little bit of your expenses. What are the approximate expenses that students have while they are studying in the UK as well? I know you're not somebody that spends a lot of money, on a Friday or a Saturday night compared to maybe something like I would. But what were your approximate expenses?
So rent rent was like £1,000
Oh,
a week, a month. Uh,
hmm.
yeah, it was a fancy ass place. That's why. Sorry for the language. But that was actually the subsidized rate, by the way.
Okay.
So yeah, and over and above that, like living expenses, depending on your lifestyle, it can, like, I think the minimum amount that you would need to live comfortably is like £300 a month. This is
Okay.
including your travel, like your commuting, your groceries, eating out once in a while, and just like shopping a few things here and there, buying one, two things.
Sure.
But that's
Hmm.
like, I think that's the minimum.
Hmm.
Of course,
Hmm.
if you like scrape through, you can make it in 250.
Okay.
Again, these are like 2017, 18 kind of thing.
Numbers. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. Fair. So, tell us something little more about the fact that while you were in the UK, you also did have time on the weekends. I'll come to what you did in the weekdays little later on, but you had time on the weekends. Take us through how easy, difficult was it for you to catch a plane and actually spend the weekend in France or travel through the beautiful countryside in Spain? Take me through how easy, how the ease of travel within the UK and in Europe that you had during your 1 year of your masters.
So you have to, if you don't have a Schengen visa, you have to apply for it if you want to travel to the specific European countries. But on your normal UK visa, you can go to anywhere in Scotland or Northern
Hmm.
Ireland. You can do any of that. But I did apply for a Schengen visa. It was fairly simple. You just have to get a letter. Sorry, one second, just adjusting my phone. You just have to get a letter from your university and get some documents together and apply for it. And it came in like 3-4 days. We got the visa.
Sure.
I traveled a lot with my friends. Where I went to Germany, I went to Turkey, I went to Austria, Hungary. Um, where else did I go? I went to Paris, so
Hmm.
France.
Yeah.
I yeah, okay. My daughter's going to bang. Sorry, the wind. Um, yeah, so I traveled a lot, and it's fairly easy.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, you just have, the flights are like, you can get the cheapest flights,
Sure.
and just have like your carry-on luggage, and it's really fun. Also, I also took a lot of like day trips within the UK to Dordledor or to Dorset, Brighton. I didn't go to Brighton, but people do go to Brighton. To Lake District and Peak District. So all of these are really beautiful
Yeah.
places in the UK. So it's really fun, and you will not have a bored weekend. And obviously within London also, if you've never been to London before, there's a
It's a
lot to
big city.
see.
Yeah.
It's a huge city, and it has a nice history. And if you're someone who's into museums and stuff like that, it's great because it has some amazing museums.
Yeah. If you and I went to the UK, we'd be doing totally different things, and I can completely
I'm
understand.
sure.
Yeah. So, Dhriti, what about weekdays? Take us through during your time at UCL. How did you spend weekdays? How busy was the course? What? Take me through the time from the time you woke up in the morning to your classes to how did you spend the afternoon, evenings before you actually went to bed?
The courses there aren't really busy. Like you have classes, say 3 times a week or so.
Hmm.
But it's a lot about what you make of it, because between your classes, we have a lot of like reading that we have to do, a lot of research that you have to do, which will enable you to make the most of the lesson that's going to come on next week. And you have like these groups where you have to do a discussion on the readings that you've had to, like your research and the readings that you had to do.
Yeah.
So that takes up a decent amount of time because it's long papers that you're reading. You're reading research papers that are like 30, 40 pages long, and multiple of those per class. So
Hmm.
it does take up time, but you are also like you can also make time to do a lot of other things. Like a lot of my friends were doing part-time work. Sadly, I didn't. That's something I regret. I did part-time work once my course was over.
Sure.
So I think you would have time to do that in your weekday. But I spent a lot of time in my weekdays also just, exploring the city and
Yeah. Going to the museums. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, and meeting my friends, because you do make a lot of friends. So yeah.
Correct. Sure. Why don't you take us through a little bit about what you do today at Lead School? Plus, while you were applying for the jobs after you came back, how much validity and how much recognition of the degree that you had, along with the university that you actually studied in, what was the reputation that added to your profile for the current job that you're doing? And just before you answer that, you can just take us through what your current role at Lead School also is.
So I work as a curriculum developer for low-income schools. So these are basically the schools that are in tier 2, tier 3 towns, almost borderline villages. So we develop curriculum for them. This includes lesson planning, supplementary resources, textbooks, and we try to contextualize it to the needs of students that come from such backgrounds. So I'll just give you a little background. I did my dissertation of my degree on how to contextualize education for indigenous or tribal students in India. And
Sure.
I did a case study from a school in like a tribal school in Odisha. So I went there and I did field work and I got data and like stuff like that. And that was what my dissertation was about. So in a way, yeah, the degree really helped me to understand the context of the kind of students that I am currently working for. Though a lot of them are not tribal students or indigenous students, but it's still, in a way, more underprivileged background.
Sure.
So that helped. Secondly, of course, having a master's degree from a university like UCL, it does have weightage. I was able to leverage that to a certain extent for like when I was, having my interviews and things like that, it has a standing. Like you can see that someone who's interviewing you, when you tell them that this is what you study, this is how you studied it, there is, of course, you can see that little, impression that you've made on them.
Yeah.
So it definitely makes a difference. And more than anything, like I said, that whole thing about my mind just, broadening and my way of thinking just developing so much more and becoming more analytical and becoming a better critical thinker, I think that shows itself as well. And like I can see people I have worked with or people I am working with, and like many of them do have it. Like a lot of engineers I feel have it. I'm not trying to
No, no, no. I
generalize or
think
make
that
it
makes
like a
sense. Yeah.
stereotype, but I have seen that skill in a lot of people who have done engineering versus people who haven't, because I think maybe the kind of courses that they have done have pushed them and made them be more probing.
Yeah.
But I have seen that it doesn't come so naturally to other people who haven't had that experience.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
it really helped me. And I think it's a skill that's valued as well.
Okay, okay. Interesting. A lot of questions have been coming up, Dhriti, about studying in the UK and then following that up with, having a job in the UK. I know that your course specifically did not make sense to get a job in the UK. Can you take me
Yeah.
through some of your friends' stories about how they managed to actually get a job in the UK? What is the difference in terms of timelines, processes, interview processes of your friends that you would have heard of? Compared to what it would take in India. Because I know in India, the average wait time from the time you apply for the company to actually starting your job, regardless of notice period, happens to be about 2.5 months, maybe sometimes 3. But once you go west, I think that number increases to about 6 as well. Can you take me through some of the experiences of your friends that were looking to find a job in the UK?
Yeah. So obviously my friends, I had made some friends who were from the European Union. So for them, it's super easy. It's like
Yeah,
cakewalk
yeah,
because Brexit and all, like there were no restrictions at that point.
sure.
So they could easily find a job within the UK. For Indian students, uh, it was relatively more difficult. I know someone who was looking for a job for around 6-7 months, and then they were able to, use a personal contact, like I said, my battery was low. So they were able to use
Sure.
a personal contact to get a job. This was in marketing and, that kind of
Yeah,
the
roles.
industry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As for business, I think a lot of people, they just knew that it would be too difficult and they didn't want to
Push that.
even
Yeah.
push it. But then I have a friend who studied actuarial sciences, and I think after a couple of months of a wait, he got a really good job. And even after that, like he wanted to change roles, and he was able to do that as well. Uh, so I've seen
Reviews. Yeah. Yeah.
mixed experiences. Yeah. So yeah, I also have another friend who started a business in London. So he, again, now this is more in the STEM areas. He studied technology, information technology, and he had a partner though, who's from London, from Britain. He's a British guy. I think because of that, maybe it might have been easier as a
Yeah. Yeah.
startup, but he's doing pretty well, yeah, for himself.
Interesting. So, this was the scenario without the post-study work, right? And now for
Yeah.
students that graduate from the post-study work, right, life is relatively easier, life is relatively faster, and the companies are relatively open to get
Yeah.
expat students as well to work because they don't
Yes.
have to bear any expenses of sponsoring their visas, at least for the first 2 years of them
Yeah.
working. So I think that happens to be a cherry on the cake. Dhriti, my final question to you is that if you had a chance to actually go back in time and to apply for a program similar to what you did, but anywhere else in the world, would you do so? And if not, what makes UK for a study destination as well?
Um, I think I wouldn't change it. Also, now that I have stayed in London, I love the city. I wouldn't have it any other way. But for other reasons as well, like not just because I love London, but UCL, like my professors, like they were people who were working on the field.
Hmm.
They're working with UNDP, and they've done like field work in Brazil and stuff like that. And the faculty was so experienced, and uh, the entire course that I had was so well rounded. I would not want to go anywhere else, but I would definitely want to go and do another course. But also in the UK, I think I have this kind of
Love.
personal bias and love for the country, even with Indian history put aside. Um, But I think I would recommend the UK for Indian students, especially if you're, someone who's never lived outside of India.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like Indians there, and you feel at home. London is just like a little more developed version of Mumbai. So if you love Mumbai, like you love London, um, and for education specifically, I think it's great. So
Correct.
yeah, I think I would go and do the exact same thing again.
Fantastic. Great. So, we've covered a lot of aspects and you've answered a lot of questions that relate to studying, working, living, experience the life in the UK. So, thanks so much for taking our time to also do this, Riti. Do you have any final thoughts, any final comments on what you could have done as well, slightly better before you caught that flight to go to the UK? That plus any other final comments or thoughts that you have?
I think read the visa requirements really well. Like they require like a certain amount of money to reflect in your account, which can show that you can
Mm-hmm.
live there and you can make the expenses. So I had made a miscalculation of sorts, but they were really cooperative. They called me and they were like, if you pay a part of your fees, we can just subtract that amount and we don't need that amount to show. And it's the amount was showing, but it wasn't for a 30-day period. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something if anyone's looking to do that, like make sure you read all those little, like the fine print better. Like the amount has to reflect in your account for a 30 days continuously, and stuff like that. Other than that, not before I took the flight, but once you're there, I would really recommend working while you're still doing the course, because that little extra income, it never hurt anybody, and you make good money. Like I worked as a cashier for Zara once I was done, just for the experience of it. And I didn't want to take more money from my father. My father funded this entire degree and my living
Sure.
expenses. So I didn't want to do that. So I was paying my rent and my living expenses for the last 5 months that I was in London after my course ended. So I would really
Hmm.
recommend you do that, because it just gives you so much, like having disposable income just helps. You can travel, you can use it for whatever you
Yeah.
need. So that's something I would have changed. Maybe I would have started working earlier. It would have been much nicer.
Interesting. Great. So I think that's some good personal experiences and some great thoughts as well that you have managed to share with us. Thanks so much for taking our time once again on this Sunday evening. I wish you all the best for the rest of your career on a formal platform. Obviously, once this is done, we will catch up once again. Yep. I think you've really given a great picture of the UK as a study destination, and actually puts it back into my mind that this is actually a great place to study, regardless of what the visa restrictions were. And now with the wonderful visa restrictions in the Boris Johnson government as well,
Yeah.
pushes people to go back to the UK, and I think you've really put a stamp on what this is. So thanks so much for taking our time, Triti.
Thanks, Sharon, for having me. I'd like to get in touch with you, not so formally also. So yeah, thanks for this.
Yep. All right. Thanks so much, Triti. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye, you too.
All right, so that was Dhriti, and unfortunately, that brings me to my last episode of the final edition of That's What They Said. I don't know when I'm doing my next live, so that's a big question mark. For people who are wanting to work on their resumes, I'm doing a resume building workshop. The link is in the bio. If you want to know a little bit more about how you can build your resume, I think this will be a wonderful thing. Um, I am planning to have a couple of more people join in for the live in the next couple of weeks, which is majorly still talking about study and their study destination and their experiences. So if you have any suggestions, if you have any thoughts, comments, if you have any friends who would have gone abroad and actually had a wonderful time studying, please do drop me a text. Please do drop me a DM as well. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined in. This brings me to the final end of the final edition of this series. Have a nice, wonderful Sunday evenings. I think raining already in Mumbai. And yes, thanks so much, guys. Take care, and bye bye.